Happy Friday, everybody. I'm Nick Slavik. I'm the proprietor of the Nick Slavik Painting and Restoration Company. I'm also the host of this show, Ask a Painter Live. It's a weekly live Facebook show where I use my over 2 decades of experience as a business owner and a craftsperson to answer any questions. And again, if I don't have the question, the group connected with Ask a Painter, the Business Brush Group, the PCA, are some of the brightest minds in the entire industry. And if I don't have the answers, they definitely do. So today we're going to go through the PCA, the Painting Contractors Association Contractor Question of the Week. I've already been collecting some questions from Mike McGrath and others, and we're going to talk about crew organization when you have multiple people, up to maybe 20 people, give or take, and then on from there. I also have a couple of quick things to go through here, but otherwise, I just want to thank everybody for your continued support and watching here. And there's been a huge spike in viewership and comments and questions, and I'm trying to dial in the content and create stuff that's really, really tailored for our time and space right now. So the PCA, the Painting Contractors Association, is an amazing group of people. It's the largest trades group for painters in the United States. The biggest, the brightest minds, the most progressive and aggressive people in our trade are there. And if you guys want more information, there is a link down below to join right there. As I said before, there is a hockey stick curve between profitability in business, happiness, satisfaction that went like this about 3 or 4 years ago. You can go to the base of that curve, and that's where I got involved with the PCA. So if that's anything for you, take that and check out the PCA. So the contractor question of the week this week is, how do you organize your crews or your people when you have a group of 5, when you have 10, when you have 15, when you have 20, etc.? I'm going to show you 2 quick examples. I'm going to show you a quick and dirty company organization here, and then I'm going to actually show you about how to organize large groups of painters, and we're going to use the Slavik house again. I'm going to actually show you a project plan of how I would structure this. So without further ado, we got a new addition to the war room here. That's awesome. So we're going to be having one of our first big formal meetings this Monday. We've started after the sort of COVID thing and we're allowed to gather again. We've been starting to gather in my new war room again. Starting this week, we're going full bore, whatever the people will allow us to do, start having our happy hours again and things like that. And it's really good to be connected with my people again like that. So, all right, folks, basic company organization. This is way simpler than you think. This is not a perfect sort of layout for every company in the United States, but there's a very simple formula. I took a lot of inspiration from the Paint by Numbers crew, Jason Paris, etc. They simplified this down, and there's a lot of companies that are proving it out in the field. So at its basic sort of structure, I'm a firm believer in business owner here. You have one estimator, one production manager, and these 2 people right here, somebody to do the estimates, somebody to manage the work, can handle probably about 10 painters. After that, depending on your people, it kind of gets a little bit crazy. If you have 5 painters, there's not enough work for these people to do. The owner should manage and hold accountable the estimator, hold and manage accountable the production manager, and then also do some, I'm a firm believer of lots of personal contact with the painters, review them, things like that. Your estimator should sell about $1 million worth of paint work a year. Your production manager should produce it at about 40% gross profit, give or take, again, changing on your business size. And then your painters should each produce about $100,000 to $110,000 a year in there with all of this sort of structure right here. I call this like a little silo. This is a little business thing. The owner, what keeps the glue of all this together is the owner making sure that people are held accountable like this. And this side is basically just another silo. I'm a believer that if you have an owner who's on the ball, 1 of these is easy, 2 of these is good, 3 of these is, you're probably, you're going to devote a lot of time to holding people accountable, and you want to make sure that, you're having enough time there. But I'm a firm believer of the basic structure of this. 10 painters need to be managed by a production manager. 10 painters need 1 estimator to produce all the work that they need to do for a year, and 1 owner just to manage everybody. Now, we're going to use the example of the Slavik house again. Let's see if we can get it all in there. This is one of the things that we call a project plan in my company. So when people say, how do you organize a big group of people, 5, 10, 15, 20? Company structure is one thing, but what about just, you got a whole bunch of painters. What do you do? Let's say you got a big commercial site. Let's say you got a big house. Do you just take 10 painters and say, hey, I want to finish this job in 2 or 3 days? What do we do? You have to be very intentional about it, because the data has proven out over and over again, without exception, that the more painters you pile on a job site, you can watch efficiency and profitability go down, 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 down like that. And I've not found too many exceptions to that. It takes some special people to do that, but that's just human nature. It is what it is, and we have to deal with it as business owners. And the way around that is doing something that we call a project plan, which is just because you have 10 people on a house doesn't mean you can't divide that house up into 10 little projects. In this case, for the Slavik house, this is a fairly easy one. If you want to get this over with in about a day and a half, 2 days, something like that, you could take 1 or 2 highly motivated people and just let them loose around that. But let's say that, you know, one other crew finished early or one other crew got rained out. They're going to come over here and do this one too. So now you got 4 people on this job site all of a sudden, and you don't want to see profitability or production crash. So what you do is you create a project plan for this here. And one of the things that this last year we did an experiment with single person crews, and people said, well, how the heck do you even do that? That's impossible. If you put them on a house, that's going to take, you know, a month and a half for them to paint it. Just because you have single person crews doesn't mean you can't divide a house like this up, like I did, into 4 smaller little projects. You take the compass directions of the house, which I've labeled here. This is my house, west, north, south, east. And then when it gets complicated like this, as a business owner or a production manager, you can copy this, put this on their actual their project plan so they understand where they're going. Now, we have 4 painters here, Wenzel, Ambrose, George, and Fritz. We put the date in here, and then there's 2 columns up here. Oh, and again, I should say this too. If you guys want this stuff, again, all you gotta do is email me, nick@nickslavik.com. I will put a reminder in there in the show notes after this thing airs. But we have 4 painters on this site. We want this to be done profitably. We want this to be done well, and we want this to be a very productive day for these people. So we basically say, hey guys, instead of you just scattering at the house, why don't, Wenzel, you take the north side. And in this project plan, we have setup. So I gave them a half an hour for setup. An hour and a half to caulk all the battens, and again, we changed the siding up on this. This is lap siding. We ended up doing board and batten siding, so it's a little bit different. They're going to caulk all the battens. 2 hours of prep, which basically inserting Trimaco floor shell above the gutters and the roof line as a kind of a spray shield, masking off the windows, masking off the concrete, digging the dirt away from the foundation, masking any miscellaneous things, taking lights down, things like that. 2 hours aside is plenty of time. Priming the metal, so the gutters, the soffits, the fascias, and the downspouts were all pre-finished metal. We would prime those with a DTM bonding primer. Lunch, you build in a half an hour for lunch in there. 1.5 hours for top coat. So once everything's done and dried, and you can see here, you can actually war plan your day. The DTM bonding primer from Sherwin that I used on the outside of this house needs 2 hours to dry. So if it takes you an hour and a half to put it on, you take a half an hour for lunch, technically, you can go ahead and repaint that stuff as long as it passes the scratch test. Top one will take an hour and a half, and then half an hour of cleanup. And give or take, that's a full day. You can keep pressing ahead. In my original plan, I did, and I just did all the painting in a day, basically. But if you want to break this up now, Wenzel had the north, then Ambrose had the east, south, and west. And basically, it's the same project plan, give or take, on each side. If you go through the same process, you might have to tweak the times, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, give or take. Mike McGrath, I see you there. I'm coming to your question right after this, man. Hold tight. And then basically on the second day, again, you set up the north again. So they take their side. Wenzel here has the north side here. Half an hour for setup, so he gets his Rubbermaid totes out of the van, gets his ladders out, lays out his tools, drop cloths, and gets going there. Top coat one takes an hour and a half here. Clean, sort, organize, and paperwork. Maybe a little bit of lunch thrown in here too. We just need an extra half an hour of dry time for this coating, a 2-hour dry time. And then top coat 2. And then I gave them 2 hours to basically de-prep, clean, make sure there's no touch-ups, things like that. All in all, this sheet is called my project plan. It automatically tallies the painter's numbers that they put in here. The green column is what they plan to do. The tan side is the side where they actually do. They put in their actual numbers, or if a plan changes, they redo it there. So, and what this does, and I'll scroll over to the next one here, it auto computes to the front. These are the painters, these are their hours right here. And this is what we call the jump sheet. And I'm gonna see if I can fit this all in here for you guys. I might have to scroll out. Give me just a second. All right, so basically what we have here is, this is our jump sheet. This is our work order that we give to our painters. We insert the project price for this house here, and it'll automatically create a budget for us. This is nothing more than a simple math problem. You minus out your materials from there, normally 15%, and then you divide by whatever revenue per hour you want to make, 55, 60, 65, 70, whatever, and that'll tell you how many hours this project has to be done in order for it to be profitable. So we have the budget right here, 74.7, and then the project plan, and the total hours were 56. So still, the painters on this, even though they took 2 days, it's still under budget for that project. And if you plan it out like that, you know, you could be thinking in your head, if you don't do any of this stuff, you could be saying, oh my God, we got 4 people, they're gonna be here for 2 days. That's like the equivalent of 8 labor days in there. It's like, we're never gonna get that job done in time. We're never gonna make any money on it. If you do your project plan, you can actually game plan it and say, how can we make this most efficient, given any variables, you know, minus any externalities, and you can actually bring this one in under budget like that. So that's basically how I do it when you have multiple people on a job site. We've even gone as far as during the reformation of the company last year to have, you know, somewhere between 4 and 6 crews, single people on a site, and we basically create a project plan for each one of them that says, listen, you go on the north side of the house, don't look around the corner. This is your side. Treat this like its own little house and just kind of go from there. So, all right, Mike McGrath. Thank you to the PCA for the contractor question of the week. Let me go back to this guy here. All right, so again, I love bringing these things full circle, which is we started off with the basics of jump sheet, project plans, the actual coding systems. We did, I believe, show 2007, 2008, 2009 were sort of the basics of exterior painting. I actually showed you how to paint an outside of a house like this, my process, my tools, my setup. And then in the end, we got production rates from it. We figured out a price per square foot. And now we do different iterations of it, which is I painted it myself, but what if you had 4 painters? So it's kind of nice to bring all this full circle. I love this data plus feelings. You know, you feel like with 4 guys in 2 days, it's gonna be too long, but really the data proves out that, you know, you're gonna do fine. So one of those things. Mike McGrath, you had asked when I posted about an open show. Oh yes, everybody, open show, whatever comments, whatever questions you wanna make here. Mike McGrath asked about how we communicate internally with the company. We use Slack, and I'll show you an example of this here. So this is our Slack thread, our Slack channel, our Slack app, whatever you want to call it here. We stopped text messaging our painters only because we wanted to have a very firm boundary between work and family. And you know, when you just throw everybody on a group text message on, you know, Friday nights, Saturday nights, their phone might be going off. It could be family, it could be friends, or it could be your company, and I didn't want that to happen. So we actually use Slack, which is a separate app, and it's basically free. The only time they charge you is if you want to access back messages, you want to add some other features, but basically it's an internal text messaging sort of app for whatever you want to do. And how we arrange it is there's a general thread, and you're looking at the general thread right now. People post pictures of job sites. There's all sorts of fun stuff on here. One of my artisans hand-painted a picture of her friend on a jean jacket, and they like to share that sort of thing. We got some debris. We got a crew that was really proud of this stucco job, this Loxon project that they did, so they posted a picture of that. More pictures there. We got some guys staying in decks, and that's sort of like for the goodwill of everybody. What you're gonna see here on the side as I'm moving, these are all direct messages between me and all the people in the company, and this is our thread for sort of like here and there. Dave Kelly, I'll get to your question here in just a second. But then the really cool thing about this is we start adding channels for each job. So again, what you don't want to do, we got 20 to 25 people, leadership team of people. We got, we'll probably end up doing 500 to 600 jobs this year. You don't want everybody getting every message for every job. So what we do is we create a channel for, here's the Dubbed job right here. Only people working on that job will be tagged in it. So every time there's a notification of, hey, we saw some previous paint on the brick outside of the house, here's a picture of it to document it. It doesn't go to 25 people in the company. It goes to the painters and the production managers for that job. And it's a beautiful way of organizing this. It's an app where people can just silence it, snooze it, sleep it when they're not at work, and they can pick it up the next day. And it's an insanely good thing. I will tell you, you must have a champion of something like this. I tried to get everybody on Slack right away. Oh, Ronnie, how's it going? Bom dia, my friend. I tried to get people on this once and it failed because I wasn't a good advocate of it. Every time somebody would call or text or whatever, I would just reply to them in the call or the text or whatever, instead of saying Slack me. I had a production, I tasked one of my production managers with doing that the second time, and it went perfectly because they were perfectly compliant with it. Every time somebody would call them or text them, they would say Slack, 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 and then they got it on here. So insanely helpful, and I would urge you guys, especially with free stuff, you know, between Google and Slack and everything else, try it. It's really good, and it's a great way to organize your jobs. So, okay, oh, I have to say, I was gonna do this at the top of the show, I completely forgot. Corey Leister. She makes her own paint. It's awesome. She sent me a quart. She also sent me one of the kindest notes that I've ever got. I'm just getting my war room in order here. Corey, this does not go unnoticed. This is insanely thoughtful of you, and we're gonna create a project for the war room, and we're gonna use your paint here. She takes premium Italian coatings. She does some pre-mixed colors, and you can get them too, and this is awesome. I love the entrepreneurial spirit. I love, Corey, if you guys don't know, has one of the best painters groups on the internet. It's great. They focus on cabinet painting and things like that. And she is a progressive, aggressive paint business owner and a coating science person. Very curious about coating science. So love that. And Corey, thank you so much. A project will be done with this very soon here for the war room. So thank you again. Okay, let's see what we got. And again, guys, open show, any question, any topic, any suggestion you want. David, how do you get your drawings? Software. So this drawing, I'll go back to this. Oh, come on. So this is actually the architectural drawing for my house, and I just copy and pasted a picture of it. But what I will show you is an example of an app called Hubble, which I use, which will build 3D models for you. And I am going to pull up, give me just a second here, I'll show you an example. That was a personality test. So this is an app called Hover. Basically, you put it on your phone, you take 8 pictures of a house from the compass directions like that, and usually, I mean, yesterday I did, I think, 3 of these. I got one back in 10 minutes, an insanely complex house. Sometimes it takes 24 hours. Sometimes if you have a really weird house, it takes a little longer. It's really dependent on if a storm blows through somewhere, and a lot of contractors use it, the lead time grows. But what's really cool, and this is a very complex Victorian restoration. We actually won a national award for this one. I collected a bunch of data on it. I think for $95, they will draw you a custom 3D model that is within an inch accurate of every measurement on the house. So you can see here all the data that they present to you, complete measurements of the house. You can see the roof here, so if you're a roofer, that'll help you there. The foundation plan of the house here. More roof and eaves and soffit. And then you can see the fun stuff, which is these awesome 3D builds of the house here. And the detail is just amazing, as you guys can see. See if this thing will catch up here. It actually tells you now, I'm going to try to get down to the stuff that I'm really, really interested in. Yeah, there's lots of little facets, and this is a 40-page report that they spit out for you here. Yes, measurements, facets, roof. Okay, so basically what they do, areas, facade. So I'm going to see if I can parse this out here. There is, let's see, on the facades. So for painters, this is really good for a lot of builders that have to know how much window trim do we have. It'll actually measure it for you. What painters are interested in is, here's what we have here. We have facades. We have about, this is 2,800 and 900, so about 3,800 square feet of siding on the outside of this house. So if you want a quick and dirty number, you know, how many gallons of paint to use here, 3,800 square feet, You times that by 2 if you're going to do 2 coats, and you divide by whatever coverage rate of your paint. So if you get 200, if you get 100, if you get 300, like that, that's a quick and dirty way to say, oh my God, how much paint do we order? And also, if you follow along and you did what we did to the Slavik house and have production rates, if you charge $1.81 a square foot, there you go. But again, this is a Victorian restoration. So these numbers aren't perfect, but you kind of have to adjust them. You say, okay, when this house is brand new hardy board, I charge $1.81. What are we gonna have to do for a 140-year-old brick? Something like that. So, all right, let's see who's got any questions here. Oh, Ray Ronnie, how's it going, man? Ronnie, surely you have a template present for every new project. Yes, absolutely. So for every exterior that I do, oh yes, Mike, do you buy one for every exterior? Yes. So what I think is the most infinitely valuable piece of data that you can have in your company is production rates and job costing after you're done to help you aid in pricing projects. On a Victorian house like this, how long would it take you to calculate the amount of soffit or window trim or brick versus shakes and things like that? How long would you have to sit there? And at the end of that, would you think that your numbers are perfectly accurate? I would say a business owner's time should be thought of as about $100 an hour. For 95 bucks, you get this, and it's accurate to the inch. To me, this is consistent, this is accurate, it's a cheap investment. It would take me way longer, and I'm not good at this, by the way. I'm good at the quick and dirty stuff. Doing exact measurements of soffits and window trim and stuff on a house like this, I would not be accurate. At the end, I would spend hours doing it, and I still wouldn't feel like, I wonder if my calculations are off, or I wonder if I just kind of blew over something that I missed or something, you know? So for me, 95 bucks is an investment to get exact, perfect, consistent production data on every single one of these things. So, oh, Eric, how's it going, man? David, no problem, always happy to help. Okay, guys, if you got any other questions, any other comments, you let me know. I'm going to run through one more thing here for you guys. Go back. So, the basic organization. Again, remember, there's not a lot of mystery about all this stuff. You just have to be curious enough to get out there and find it. Using basic production rates, again, 2020 is the year of mastering the basics. We're gonna do a whole bunch of really good things, really simply, over and over and over again. This is not rocket science. You don't need to create your own custom software. Whatever you need to succeed isn't something that's never been done before. You basically just need to do the simple things over and over. There's plenty of people doing them. Not a lot of people can put them all together consistently and do it forever. So it's one of those things where know your numbers. Number one, I was on a podcast this morning with somebody, and they said, what's the best piece of advice you can give a contractor, a young contractor starting out? It's number one, know your coding science. Know how to paint the outside of a house. Know what to use where and how and why. Same thing with inside and everything else. Then once you know your coding systems are down, then know your numbers. Then track your hours for a job, your cost per paint, figure out labor versus materials. And then you can, when it comes time to hire an employee, there's not this big mystery around it. Like, oh my God, what needs to happen for me to get my first employee? What happened for you for your first employee? It's like, no, it's a simple equation. One painter should be about 40% of the labor on a job. They should produce about $100,000 to $110,000 of revenue a year. It's going to cost you between $20 and $25, including wages and burden, to have that person around. So there's 52 weeks in a year. Most people only work 50 of those because of illness, kids, everything else. So 2,000 hours, 40 hours a week times 50 hours. It's going to cost you 20 to 25 bucks to employ somebody. 2,000 hours times $20, that's 40 grand a year. If you hire somebody on for that rate, it's basically going to be a $40,000 experiment for you. And for that, you want them to produce about $100,000 worth of work. And I think you might get me wrong here, 218 working days in a year. So you basically take $100,000 to $110,000 divided by 218, and that'll tell you exactly what that person has to make per day in order to make you money. So it's not a tough equation. As always, I'm here to help. If you guys need any of this stuff, you can email me, nick@nickslavik.com. I'll put that in the show notes later. Let's see what else we got here. Ronnie, oh, my good friend, my liaison, my best friend from Brazil, translator. This is absolutely awesome. This kind of data takes ages to be produced. Maybe Maybe. This is so easy though. We used to have to get out the slide rule and stuff to calculate this stuff. Now, you take 8 pictures on your app, or on an app, and in 10 minutes it spits out beautiful, pure, clear data for you. Emilio, what do you usually aim for a profit margin? Very easy question to answer, but a lot goes with it. The average painting business in the United States should make 15% profit margin when all said and done. Very important though, that that's for a size of business that is probably one silo. So remember, owner, estimator, production manager, 10 painters. That's typically like a silo. If you do everything right and you actually pay yourself a W-2, at the end of it, when all is said and done, you've paid yourself a W-2 wage, you've paid your estimator, you've paid your production manager, you've paid your 10 painters, you've paid all your suppliers for paint, all your insurance, everything else, 15% of what you make should be left over. So typically what that'll be is, most owners, this is about $1 million silo right here. Typically you want to pay yourself between about $60,000 and $90,000 W-2 wage as an owner. So that's a typical W-2 wage. You'll see those numbers recommended by tax professionals and things. And if you pay yourself $60,000 to $90,000, pay these people, do everything right, a lot of things have to work well. On $1 million, you should have 15% left over, so $150,000 plus whatever you pay yourself on that. So here we go. David Kelly, curious question, why brown for clothes? This is tan and cream and this and that. Every other painter in the world wears stark white stuff, and the typical painter, you've seen them in magazines, you've seen them on the street in Sherwin-Williams. They wear insanely baggy pants, no belt, pants hanging down, insanely large XXX shirt, nothing fits well, they look sloppy, they're full of paint, this and that, everything's stark white, you look like every other painter out there. I like to go with the tan or the cream just to set ourselves apart. I think it's a little more sophisticated look. Personally, I like button-up shirts for myself. My production managers wear polo shirts, custom embroidered, and my craftspeople wear polo shirts, custom embroidered. Everybody else wears custom t-shirts that we have too that are tan or cream. So, okay, let's see what else we got here. Peter, thanks for watching. Emilio, do you pay your employees overtime? Yes, you have to. It's a law. Anything, there's a couple different business sizes that you can do. I think I'm going from memory here. If you make $500,000 of revenue or less, or you have a certain threshold of employees, you can pay people their standard wage to like 45 hours, I think, or 50 hours. But once you cross a threshold of like you produce more than $500,000 worth of work, you have to start paying people overtime, at least in the state of Minnesota, at time and a half. So basically everything over 40 is time and a half for my people. And again, we have no restrictions on overtime. I beg my people to work overtime, but I also do it very gently because I'm the person who always yells at people, family-life balance, work-life balance. And you know what? If they don't want to do overtime, I respect that. But it's always there for them if they want to get out and get some stuff done. I think we had three different crews going out today to just do some miscellaneous stuff like that. People who either want to get the satisfaction of finishing their job or get a few extra hours and things like that, it's always there for people. So, what else we got? Stephen Sherwood, young business owner, what's a good marketing strategy? I am a firm believer in if by marketing you mean you want leads, and by leads you mean estimates, by estimates you mean you want jobs and business, I would say up to about $500,000 worth of business. So again, if you think about a silo, that's half a silo. You got an owner, you got 5 painters. If each painter should be making $100,000 of revenue a year, up to about $500,000. You should be able to support a 5-person painting company off of basically word of mouth, referrals, and contacts that you have, and maybe a little like guerrilla marketing, which is, you know, just making contacts on the street, maybe calling up owners of businesses, things like that. But it takes a lot of work, but it doesn't cost any money. That's the important part. There's this give and take in marketing where you can spend a lot of money to get a lot of leads, or you can spend a lot of effort to get a lot of leads. I would always suggest, instead of shoveling money into Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook, all these other lead generation things like that, keep yourself light, keep yourself nimble, get out there and use your effort to get leads instead of money. I found that in my business, we crossed the $1 million threshold last year. I can produce about $500,000 worth of work through referral, word of mouth, things like that. And then after that, I need to force marketing. I need to actually spend money to get anything on top of that. If I did nothing, about $500,000 worth of painting work will just naturally come into the company. If I want to do something more, I found out that a couple data points for you real quick here, and then we'll get to other people's questions. A couple data points are I can shovel money into Instagram and Facebook and I can make leads go up. They are not as quality as other types of marketing. So what you'll find is if you spend $100 in Facebook, give or take, let's say you'll get 10 leads, the chances that you'll actually get an estimate or a job out of those are very low. Most of those people are kind of window shoppers where they're saying, hey, I saw this really cool picture of a painted kitchen. I wonder what that costs. Here's this painter. Give me an estimate for this. And they're not really interested in getting it. I don't blame them. This is just a thing. But you're going to find way more looky-loos on social media than you will with traditional forms of marketing. Honestly, I've done the Google AdWords. We've done all sorts of other crazy stuff. I've collected data for it. The super unsatisfying answer is direct mail works really, really well. But it's a specific kind of direct mail where we use a Google map, we pinpoint certain neighborhoods, certain types of houses that we want to market, clients that we want to market, in areas we want to market to. We have a very, very unique postcard with a rubber band on it. A human actually delivers it to the door, puts a rubber band around the door, so somebody actually has to walk out and physically touch it instead of just it's in a stack in the mailbox, they throw the stack away. And I'm trying to think if I've ever got a complaint. I've never got a complaint from any direct mail, because a lot of times you'll find out that, oh, why are you sending junk mail, whatever. But I've never got a complaint from it. And in fact, I had one of my flyers come off a door in a windstorm, fly down the street, somebody picked it up and called me and I got a job out of it. So that's just what I found. Again, for my people, for my goals, for my area, that works really well. So. Okay, David Kelly, thank you. Steven, no problem. Here we go. Emilio, thanks for all the questions, by the way, guys. This is awesome. Again, free show, guys. You can ask any questions, suggest any topic, whatever you want. If you want to see something that I've shown in the past, we can pull that up too. So what's the biggest challenge that you find having trouble with keeping up, such as communication with clients daily, etc.? So we divide tasks in my business where I do all the estimates. I have 2 production managers that take the estimate once it's sold and produce it. And they contact the client, they set it up, they confirm colors and schedule, and then make sure the painters have the supplies they need, check up on the project, and close it out and then invoice it. So for me, the biggest challenge is getting people timely estimates. And one of the biggest competitive advantages we have are we can print out estimates in my van instantly, and normally in about 20 to 40 minutes from meeting the person on site, walking through their house, I can print them off an estimate, walk them in and do that. COVID slowed that down a little bit. That competitive advantage went away, but I've been already doing virtual estimates for a few years now. So when COVID hit, again, you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. I've been doing virtual estimates for 2 or 3 years now where people send me images and I create detailed estimates from them. And I have a lot of data. I have a lot of experience after we produce the jobs. The margins are still good. My success ratio, my close ratio on those is still good. And people seem to like the velocity. So my competitive advantage is the quickness in which we respond. Now, there's only one way to get an estimate really through me, and it's through my website. I've actually removed the phone number from my business, because you go to my website, you fill out a quote request form. I like everything in email to be in writing, so it's a record for later. They give me all the information. So again, I don't have to ask them over the phone, what's your address? And then I make a spelling error, things like that. Great questions, guys. I'll get to those here. And then the velocity in which you attack that. I do not let maybe 1 or 2 hours go past without at least replying to those and saying, hey, thanks for the inquiry. We can schedule an in-house, we can do a virtual. How would you like to do this? And at least get the ball rolling. People just want to know that their submission got put in. So yeah, big competitive advantage is just, again, mastering the basics, the simple stuff, which is attacking those estimates, getting these people what they want. They just want to make a decision. They need your price to make a decision, so just help them out. And I don't really pre-qualify either. There's a lot of people who pre-qualify. That's fine, but we need a lot of jobs for this company. It's a big, thirsty machine, and I want to give everybody a chance. You never know. So I'm not smart enough to know who's going to be a good fit for the company and not. As clients go, I like to suss everybody out, see their jobs, and see how it's going. So, Tina, what's the best process for painting vinyl siding? This is awesome. Number 1, don't paint it. If you have to, wash it, scrub it, make sure there's no chalk, and then do a scratch test. The best paint, my favorite paint, as you probably know, Tina, this is trainer Tina, by the way. She's one of the coolest people in the world. She heads up the apprenticeship program in my company, and she actually sat here at the table and had a sweet roll with us this morning when we had a production meeting. So, and she brought farm fresh eggs too. Best paint, I like Sherwin-Williams Duration. There's a whole bunch of other Sherwin-Williams paints. They're called vinyl safe paints that you can use. And you want to make sure you use vinyl safe paint, vinyl safe color. There's an actual color chart at Sherwin that you can say, you know, they remove some tints, I believe it's black or something, so that your vinyl siding, if you paint it a dark color, it doesn't warp from the heat of the sun. So again, wash, scrub, make sure there's no chalk. You should wipe your finger on, no chalk that comes off. When that's done, when the house is dry, do a scratch test. Take some Duration in the color you want, put it on a couple square inch area, let it dry overnight. If you can't scratch it off the next day, you're good to go. 2 coats right over the top. I prefer to spray. Brushing is very difficult with vinyl siding. And then you're good to go. If it doesn't stick, then you have to use a bonding primer. And for plastics, one of my favorite bonding primers is a water-based bonding primer, Extreme Bond from Sherwin. So that does a really good job. My preference is always to use straight Duration. I've had insanely good luck over pre-finished tin and vinyl siding, just going straight Duration over the top. So awesome question, Tina. Richard Buxenbaum. Do you print them off an estimate even though they haven't made a decision on whether or not they would hire you to do the job, or do you write up a small scope of work? Do they agree on the price and you send them the formal proposal? No, in order for them to make a decision, they need to see their project broken out. So last night, I went to do one interior estimate. I think they wanted about 6 rooms done. I had my tablet with me. I wrote down all the notes about, you know, hey, this is the thing, they want 2 colors in this room, whatever else. Took my notes, wrote down my prices, went out to the van. 20 minutes later, I had a paper estimate. I walked in, and then I walked through the whole estimate with them saying, this is the exact price for all these rooms. And then I walk them through my painting process, the things we do and don't do. And then we basically just say, you know, do you have any questions? I don't do a hard sale like, is this a job I can do for you? Tell me what it takes to get you on the books. I just leave it as, do you have any questions? If not, I'm always here to help. Let me know if I can do anything for you. But they need those numbers in order to make a decision. And my goal is not to close on the spot. If I was reliant on closing on the spot, I would fail miserably. Most of my people will respond in the next 1 to 3 days if they're serious, and that's just how it goes. So thanks, Richard. Emilio, approximately how much does the production manager make? That's something I can email you offline. I will tell you this, a good general industry average is about 5% of revenue. So if you're doing a $1 million painting business, their total compensation package should probably be around $50,000 a year. Now, whether you make 30 of it in a base pay and 20 of incentives, or 40 in base pay and 10 in incentives with the ability to do more incentives, you know, for good performance of the painters, that's how you do. But generally, most companies will allocate about 5% of their revenue to production managers. But I like the incentive process too, because you want somebody to have the incentive to get out there and do really good work and hold other people accountable. So Travis, how's it going, man? Thanks for the sweatshirt. I do appreciate it. Oh, here we go. Cindy, what do you do when they don't respond back when you submit a quote? Bunch of options here. You could do nothing. If your schedule is full and you're booked 8 months out, there may not be a need to contact them back. If they didn't take your job, you know what? They didn't like it. You may not need the work, moving on. What I do, Cindy, is I want to know why. If I took the time 2 to 3 hours to drive to somebody's house, walk through their house, print out an estimate, explain my process, drive back home, usually missing some family time, and they don't respond, I like to respond back and say, hey, you know, I really appreciate the opportunity to do this for you. Just checking in, is this a job I can do for you? I would be very pleased to be able to help you. And then sometimes they don't get back to you again. And then I'll send out another one. But usually what they'll say is, hey, sorry, we ended up doing it ourselves, or you know what, I had another painter to do it. And then at that point I say, you know what, I've invested 2 or 3 hours here. I'm just gonna see if I can get some good data out of it. And then you ask them, you know, I wanna tailor this process to my clients the best I can. Could you provide me any feedback? Was it my presentation? Was it the price? Was it my schedule? Give me some feedback so I can make this process better for the next client. And they're actually really great. They're like, oh my God, of course. We went with another guy. We liked your quote. We knew you were going to do a good job, but he could just start tomorrow and you were 3 weeks out. And you get a lot of information like that. What you want is to marry data and feelings. If you don't hear back from somebody, a lot of us take that feeling part and say, oh my God, they hated me, they're not gonna use me. I bet you they're just like talking bad to me about everybody, how embarrassing it was. But the data usually is, if they didn't pick you, may not have to do with you. They sometimes didn't even do the job. Sometimes they sold the house. Sometimes they had a friend do it. I just had one where we had a deck scheduled for next week and the husband got laid off. He's gonna do the deck himself now. That's okay, it's fine. But if they would have canceled without us following up on it, we would have been, oh my God, they found another guy to do it better, or they didn't trust us or something. But you gotta marry the data and the feelings. But always follow up and get data from that. What most people do is this horrible thing of, I didn't get the job, so I gotta lower my prices right away. What you need to do is figure out why. It may have just been scheduled. Your problem may not be price. You may have a perfect price. It may be you gotta get to these people sooner, and that means getting more painters. So Brian, you can paint vinyl siding with proper bonding primer. Also, if it has oxidation, you need to acid wash to remove it. Perfect points. Monty Den, local Monty Den. Thanks for watching, man. Oh, Emilio, what do we got here? On average, how many estimates do you do a week? Last year, I can give you data on that. I did 800 to 840 estimates last year. My SR is 48%. So we did about 375, 400 jobs last year, give or take. So if you take I forget, was it 218 working days divided by, 800 estimates, give or take, I probably do 2.5 to 3 estimates a day, give or take. So, Cindy, what program do you use to print out a quote on site? Google. It's not a program, it's hardware. So whatever your estimate stuff that you have, all of my estimating stuff, here, I'll pull up one for you. Give me just a second. All right, come on, where's my estimate here? Come on. Sorry, let's take a second to pull up. We got a lot of stuff. This is the folder that I share with other painters. So yeah, a simple estimate like this is converted to an Excel, but it started out life as a Google sheet. So basically it's just, it's a simple spreadsheet. You can put in anything you want in there, and it'll basically just conform to whatever sort of, let's move that a little bit. Yeah, it'll just basically kind of conform to whatever sort of form you want. Now, there are much better things. There are software, there is this and that. The software doesn't make it printable in a car. The portable printer makes it printable in a car. So I have, in my Dodge Caravans, I have an AC outlet. I have this tiny little printer. It's sort of like a portable printer. It's not specifically made for a car. It's made to be thrown in a bag and taken places. And it's just got a simple color cartridge. I have some cream colored paper. I actually made a little desk in my front seat, just a platform to set the printer on. So when I'm sitting in my driver's seat, I have my tablet out in front, I have my printer to the right, you feed a piece of paper through and you do that. It's a simple thing of, all you have to do is get a printer to plug in and get powered by your car. You can even do it through a cigarette lighter too, depending on how big of a printer. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Phil Klein, how many estimates do you do a month? I think I just sort of broke that down. 800 to 900 estimates divided over 12 months, give or take. So. Cindy, yes, I have the same problem. I invested time and they don't respond. But you guys don't take an adversarial stance toward clients. The best case scenario, industry standard is 50% SR, success ratio, which means half the people will take you, half the people won't take you. Almost every large, reputable painting company in the United States would be very happy with a 50% SR, success ratio. It feels bad to have half the people say no thanks. Do not take an adversarial stance against this. The entry fee for running a painting business is giving people estimates. The reason I don't pre-qualify, the reason I don't take this adversarial stance towards clients is they don't know. You're the pro. You're offering free estimates, so don't be surprised when people take you up on free estimates. And when it takes time out of your day to do that, don't have this resentful relationship with your clients. You want to form a relationship, half of them you're going to lose, chalk it up to whatever. And you know what? The smaller the painting company, the less work you need. My SR was probably 60 to 80% when I was smaller because I didn't need much work. And the work I did, it was easy. You know, you could tailor it a little more to move your SR higher. And I was probably underpriced at the same time too. So, but yeah, I would just say don't take this stance of wasted time. Know that On average, I'm gonna spend an hour and 40 minutes invested in each estimate I do if I do an in-home visit. I'm gonna do, 300 estimates this year to get 150 jobs. Plan on just doing that. And don't think of every time you don't get one as a complete loss. You have now made a good contact with somebody. They may not use you today, they may use you in the future, or they may say, hey, you know what? We decided not to do this job, but my neighbor's looking and they hand it over there. It is not lost. And the reason I can produce $500,000 to $600,000 worth of word of mouth and referral stuff is because the amount and velocity of estimates that have gone out there year after year after year, the spider web just spreads over and over again. So, oh, Phil, saw your question there. Thank you much. Emilio, I did over 900 last year. Good stuff, man. That's awesome. Emilio, I would love to talk with you more about that stuff too. I would love to see how you structure that, how many you do a day, your process and things like that, because it's a lot, man. It's a lot. Alice Rose, do you use a CRM for business development and data? If so, what one do you suggest? Super unsatisfying answer. Non-sexy answer, which is Google Sheets. I just kind of built my own simple one. In the next 3 years, I will most likely get on an estimating platform software and get on a CRM. But right now, this is completely manageable. It's quick and dirty. And gathering that stuff in a customer relationship management software is not the thing that will help my business as much as me spending time with my apprentices and craftspeople and making sure that we're training. That's a low-hanging fruit for me right now. So that's CRM and things like that is probably about 6 or 7 on my list. But yeah. Nick, yes, CRM as well. Good question. 3 to 10 usually for us. Absolutely, Travis. Travis has got an awesome business. I love following him. David, do you use software for your estimate? If so, he uses PEP. Yeah, there's tons of good stuff on there. I actually talked with somebody from Estimate Rocket this morning. That's another good one there. My impression, John Busick has got Work Glue too. A good friend of mine, John Busick. That's an awesome program. There's a whole bunch of them out there, guys. What you'll find is that what you want it to do for your business, your personal preferences, you're never going to find anything that's perfectly tailor-made for you unless you're Jason Paris and you hire a guy and you make your own custom software. That's not the rest of us. That's a very specific sort of circumstance. What you're going to find is nothing's perfect, so you just make the best of what you got. Find something, adopt it, be a champion of it, and see it through. Commit to it. That's the people who have the success with the software stuff. That's how they have the most success. I have chosen to stay on. Google only because right now it can do whatever the hell I want, and what I give up in like ease and intuitiveness and I get in customization. So for me right now, making this spreadsheet, I don't really need it to be easy a lot of the times. The act of making this and make it work and entering numbers in it sometimes is the lesson I'm after, and it's the process of making the sheet and seeing it through and collecting numbers that teaches me what I need to know, not having an intuitive thing where you press a button and there's gates and it does or does not let you do stuff. So for me, it's a different thing. I love doing this. By creating these sheets, it actually teaches me the process and I'm more involved in it like that. So that's why I do it. So, let's see what we got here. Oh, we got some questions. James Ross, pre-qualifying the customer and make sure they can afford your services. No need to write up an estimate if the lower price is what they want. Very tough to suss that out. I don't know many business owners that are good at that. Now, the only time I will say it might be appropriate to pre-qualify people is if you're a single person painting company or you have one helper and it's May in Minnesota and you're getting 10 requests a day. I don't know if it's the best use of your time to go around and give everybody an estimate because you're only going to be able to paint 20 houses this year. You know what I mean? So why do 150 estimates for exteriors of houses? I would say the best use of time for a small company like that would be, maybe selectively, maybe pre-qualifying, maybe that. But I will tell you this. You're already taking an adversarial stance with a client because what you're trying to do is find out and prototypically, and this may not be you, but a lot of times the conversation is, well, listen, I'm a premium product. Nobody does as good as me. I only want luxury clients, the people who know quality, who are going to pay for it. You don't know that about them by just a 2-second phone conversation or an email. And if you're trying to suss out a price, what you're going to run into is they're asking you for an estimate because they have no idea what your painting stuff costs. So that may be this, when you ask them for a budget, you say, I don't know. I mean, I just did a building project. If my concrete guy comes to me and says, hey, what's your budget for concrete? It's like, dude, you're the pro, you tell me. This is what I want, you tell me what it costs, and I'll tell you if we can make it wider or not. Like, I'm not the pro, I don't know what this is. So be very careful what you do. When you're a larger painting company, you definitely want to give every single person a chance, because leads cost money and they cost time. And it's just sort of the lay of the land. You need more work and things like that. So my only advice to you guys is the knee-jerk reaction is, well, I don't want to waste a time on an estimate if I don't get it. Get over it. It's what we do. If you offer free estimates, don't be surprised that people take free estimates, and don't be resentful towards them when you do that. Make as many contacts as you can. Early on, the reason I have so much word of mouth and referral business is because I invested in my first 3 to 4 years with everybody who even hinted that they wanted a paint job. I did the full Cadillac treatment in their house. I was there, I had my button-up shirt on, I had my estimating stuff, and I gave everybody an estimate. And you know what? Maybe they didn't take me, maybe they did. I made a contact and they met me, and there's a face to a name for that person who was in that ad or that Facebook post. And now they have a contact and they're like, oh yeah, that Nick guy, he was in my house, he was a really nice guy. I mean, maybe he was overpriced, maybe he couldn't do it, maybe we decided not to do it, whatever, but good guy, noted for the future. And that's what you want to leave a string of. That's, if you're gonna invest stuff in, you know, people pre-qualify, but then they spend a whole bunch of money in leads. I would much rather spend my effort and get face-to-face with another human or interact with another human. That is the best marketing spend of effort you can possibly do. My opinion, though. Eric, are you still doing mostly oil finish on your cabinets? No, we have gone completely to hybrid finishes. All the favorites in the industry from Benjamin Moore and Sherwin-Williams. Anytime I can definitely use a C. Oh, Amelia, thank you so much. Eric Sars, we use Estimate Rocket and like it? Absolutely. Mike Danhe, howdy. Thank you guys. This has been an awesome show. Again, if you want to see how I structure multiple crews, I can send you these, Nick at nickslavik.com. I'll put that in the show notes later. Otherwise, I want to thank everybody for watching. This has been great. The interaction is wonderful. I look forward to this every week. Thank you to the PCA, the Painting Contractors Association. Hopefully we can get together for big expos and big get-togethers and painters events again. I miss traveling around and seeing everybody, giving master's classes, talking to all my friends around the country. So hopefully we can go back to normal pretty soon. And everybody have a good weekend. Thank you to the PCA for being great champions of all of our causes, moving the industry forward, and yeah, just promoting what good painting businesses look like. So what curriculum do you use for your apprenticeship program? This is one I get asked 10 times a day. We have simple standard operating procedures, but we do human-to-human contact and teaching. Trainer Tina, who was on here before asking, she heads up the apprenticeship program. There is no magic videos, there is no magic checklist, system, process. You need to have those things, but humans, holding other humans accountable to those systems is 90% of it. Don't ever think you can write down a process or make a manual, hand it to somebody, send them in the field, and you're gonna get good results. That is a dumpster fire. You need to have another human there teaching them how to do it and then holding them accountable like that. So, Mary, please repeat your question to Eric on oil-based cabinets. I heard you say hybrid. Mary, yes, we were talking about that. So I'm a huge fan of oil enamel, and then I promise I will stop this feed. Mary, I'm a huge fan of oil enamels. They are not as good as they used to be. There's still a bunch out there. Fine Paints of Europe, Benjamin Moore, Sherwin, they all have good oils, but they're not as prevalent, they're not as easily accessible, and they are different than they were 10 or 20 years ago. So for that reason, I've used hybrid enamels. So Sherwin-Williams Emerald Trim Urethane, Benjamin Moore Advance, and we've been using a lot of Benjamin Moore Scuff-X as well, which is a sort of industrial water-based enamel. It's almost like, it feels like the cross between a super good hybrid enamel, a wall paint, a oil enamel, a water-based lacquer, and an epoxy. It's just a weird mix, and it's got traits of every one of those. And in fact, my war room, as you guys can see here, all this is Benjamin Moore Scuff-X. All that beautiful wainscoting and stuff like that. So you can see the beautiful shine on that stuff. That was just Scuff-X sprayed. And it's a wonderful thing. So Mary, I know we've been corresponding. You've been knee deep in Penetrol and oil enamel and having bad results. And honestly, I gave up oil enamel for most of our cabinet work years ago because of that reason. The oil enamels aren't what they used to be anymore. I'm still a fan of oil primer, but try some of those out. And again, I can give you specific recommendations, Mary, if you like as well. So thanks everybody for watching. I do appreciate this. We will talk to you guys next week.